We are live. That's right. WWE has been, well, a big talking point over the last couple of days, and it's going to continue to do so as we're now on the road to Night of Champions. The big question, who will become the first WWE World Heavyweight Champion? Who's going to win the tournament? 12 superstars in total have been announced. Yes, there'll be 6 from Monday Night Raw. There'll be 6, surprisingly, from SmackDown on a Raw exclusive championship. But it's going to be interesting how the tournament's going to play out. We've got 2 triple threat matches that will be taking place on those nights. At the end of each night on Raw and SmackDown, the winners of those triple threat matches will go head-to-head in singles competition, and that will lead then to a Raw winner and a SmackDown winner. They'll go head-to-head at Night of Champions, almost said Clash of Champions, and then that means we'll get a new World Heavyweight Champion. What is that going to mean going forward, though? I mean, the first question is coming from C Nation already before we even got started. Why are SmackDown superstars fighting for a Raw World title? I'm not quite sure, C Nation, being brutally honest with you, but what I could suggest in there is I did this on Friday. Was the idea that I know that Drew's out at the minute. Drew is still not being featured on WWE TV. They may look at the Raw roster and think they're lacking a superstar. Maybe they think afterwards that maybe SmackDown has too many superstars. Maybe they want to put someone from the SmackDown roster onto the Raw roster. That would be a way that I imagine if the SmackDown superstar wins, that's what's going to happen. But it's going to just see how it's going to happen. We're going to break it down anyway. Obviously, we'll talk about the 6 superstars from Raw. We'll talk about the 6 superstars from SmackDown. And we're going to give a quick prediction on how we see it going. And as well as that also, later in the stream, we are going to be talking about WWE Backlash. Give our review for that show. Yes, it's a little late, but you know what? It's going to be a fun time. It's a fun show overall. I'm looking forward to diving in with my very special guest, almost a co-host at this point. He's more than furniture to me. He's absolutely priceless. Is NX Stephen House. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm very good, my friend. It's been a very surprising weekend of wrestling because I was very pleasantly surprised after Backlash, after my prediction last week where I was like, I just think it'll be filler, really. So I said it was quite a stealer of a show, and I'm not going to deny it. It's the first time in ages I've had to go back and watch it a second time just for the pure enjoyment of it.
Fantastic. That's what I like to hear. Well, at least when it comes to the review, if anything I'm missing, I know you've watched it twice, you can definitely keep me on track. But no, I've got to admit you, it was a fantastic show. I really enjoyed it. Like you said, there was high energy from the Puerto Rico crowd that definitely boosted everything from start to finish. And like you said, it's a show that you could go back and watch over again. Spoiler alert, we've said we liked it already, but we can dive into it in a bit more detail a bit later on. But C Nation already giving his prediction. Seth Freakin Rollins will become the first ever world champion. On the Raw side, they said as well, there are enough people on Raw. Why include SmackDown? I do agree with you, but WWE logic, I can't really explain why they're doing it, but they've done it. So that's the best I could come up with as a reason why. But WWE should have put a lot of people on Raw. Then there would be a good tournament. But I mean, there's an opportunity for people to break out in the tournament as well. So let's go through some of the names then that are in the tournament. Start with the Raw side. So we know that we've got Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare, going to be in there as well. Of course, will he now finish the story away from Roman Reigns and go for this World Heavyweight title? Seth Freakin Rollins, as C Nation mentioned a minute ago, is in this tournament. Seems to be a heavy favorite with many. We've got 2 members from the Judgment Day. Damian Priest is going to be involved. We've got Finn Balor, also the first ever Universal Champion. On the Raw side as well, the brand new acquisition of Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be involved. And of course, the 2-time Grand Slam champion, The Miz, rounding off the Monday Night Raw half. And on SmackDown, wow, what a lineup we have here. We've got Edge on the SmackDown side, of course, synonymous with the World Heavyweight Championship. We've got the likes of AJ Styles going to be involved with this, Bobby Lashley, Austin Theory, Sheamus, and of course, Rey Mysterio. So a lot of big hitters involved there on the SmackDown side. For me, looking at this, that sounds like a really stacked lineup there to crown your first ever WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, it's. I mean, you look at it and people sitting here, why are they throwing all these SmackDown stars in? But let's be honest, it's an easy storyline to throw onto a Friday night. It's to get more high-profile names on it, to draw more of a name to it. I mean, I'm not against. Well, I mean, it makes more sense that a Raw superstar wins it, but you can also take it as this is an opportunity for them to possibly do a late switch in the draft and have a SmackDown star that was on SmackDown go back to Raw because of this. So, do you know what I mean? I think it's an exciting thing to do. It just depends on who's going to win it and how they do it.
Absolutely. And there's we've got two triple threat matches that are going to take place on Raw tonight. Like I said, again on SmackDown, the winners will face each other. It's going to be an interesting scenario because, I mean, you look at the Raw side there, we mentioned two heavy favorites, Seth Freakin Rollins, Cody Rhodes as well, another one there. One of them is not going to be going on to Night of Champions, where you could have argued perhaps previously that could have been your final. That could have been your final two guys. Will they be in the same triple threat match? I'm not even sure of the brackets at the time of recording. It's going to be interesting to see how it's going to play out. A quick just dive into the comments again very quickly. C-Nation doesn't think anyone SmackDown is winning it. Of course not. You've predicted Seth freaking Rollins, so it would be strange unless Seth has a trade to SmackDown in the next couple of weeks. But Nubico also says that he also seen Seth Rollins win. So Seth is a very popular shout. C-Nation, thank you for your comments. Luke, thank you for your comments. And I'm liking this as well. Another prediction coming in here. Seth Rollins will beat Finn Balor to the finals. I like the way that's done it because they were the first two for the Universal Championship back in the day, back in 2016 at SummerSlam. That would be a beautiful way to do that. Now, I guess the only way you would do that is if Cody Rhodes isn't involved in the triple threat match decision in one of the first matches of the night. And there could be a good logical excuse to do that as well.
Yeah, I mean, these guys are all having great shots here, but my personal opinion is I reckon you're going to see Edge in that final because the World Heavyweight title was the title he had to give up when he retired. And I think there's more of a story there and a narrative if you have Edge go into that final at Night of Champions. But yeah, I can't personally see Cody making it past the triple threat either. I think that a certain Mr. Lesnar is going to come back, and I think he's going to stop him from doing it. And I think this is the smart decision because, like I've been saying for a couple of weeks now, Cody should be nowhere near this World Heavyweight title scene. The only title he needs to worry about is that Universal title.
Absolutely agree with you, and I think the exact same thing is going to happen tonight. When you looked at the way that Backlash ended, obviously it was more of a victory, an escape. It wasn't conclusive, it wasn't decisive, and obviously with the likes of someone like Brock Lesnar, we still don't know why he did it. Of course, I've given my reasons why I think he should say he didn't do it, but we don't know why Cody was going to beat it out of him. But I mean, yes, Brock was bloody, but Brock didn't really seem like he was, going to give the notion of why he did it end up being easier. So, I mean, commentary even come up with an excuse now of, well, the reason that he done it is because that's Brock Lesnar. He just does that to everybody. So, yeah, he picks who he wants to be. I don't like that sort of stuff. It should be clearly that he thought Cody was going to win the world title. He's ready to go and win a world title. You know, that should have been there. Now he's not included in this either. He's going to make sure Cody's not involved in it. I think just those little tweaks would make that storyline tie up so perfectly. So I agree with you. I think Cody could even get stuck in the first area of the evening. If he does make the final, well, I suppose it's even more impactful, isn't it? If it's Cody then that gets drops at the final hurdle. Everyone's talking about adversity at the moment when it comes to Cody Rhodes. And I think that when it comes to Cody, like, this is a way to get through the adversity. Yes, he escaped Brock Lesnar when it came to Backlash, but obviously when it comes to winning the big titles, he still can't really get over that final hurdle. So I think that could be a good way to do it. Mentioning Finn Balor a couple of seconds ago, of course, Finn Balor, if he does get to the final, would be quite cool to see. Shinsuke Nakamura has been on a bit of a push since his return. Looks like that maybe he could do something fun. I wouldn't mind seeing him in the final bracket there. Damian Priest, obviously being presented now as a top star, and obviously, why wouldn't he after that performance of Backlash was absolutely incredible. What do you reckon of the inclusion here of Damian Priest into this 12 men that's going to be involved in this tournament?
I mean, after Saturday, I think it's justified because, my God, that guy did such a fantastic job. But I messaged you privately and said after Backlash, I was like, it seems to be that Priest is back on the right track again to where he was when he was initially called up before he started doing all that split personality stuff. So I'm thoroughly impressed with it, and I'm really glad that he's getting the push because, my God, he deserves it.
Absolutely, indeed. There. Let's go into the comments very quickly. So we have quite a few new people joining us as well, including Ed Fries in the house. Hope you're doing well, Ed, from our local establishment. We're very well, thank you. Hope you are keeping well also. So let's see then what some of the. So we have Alex Storyworld in the house. It's been a little while. See Cody winning the triple threat match. Then interview happened with Brian Saxton. All of a sudden, Brock takes up Cody. Second number replacement is Drew McIntyre facing Seth Rollins in the main event. Like the fantasy booking there, because obviously Drew's nowhere in sight. Certainly be a fun way to bring him in if you were to do so. Yeah, I like that. It would be a twist and a turn. Nice stuff there, Alex. I like that a lot. Also, it will be a Raw Superstar versus a SmackDown Superstar in the finals. That is exactly correct at Night of Champions. It is the winner of Raw versus the winner of SmackDown. We'll find out the Raw Superstar tonight. We'll find out the SmackDown Superstar this Friday. Kicking it with Leo. Cool.
My issue with how they've done this is, why are they rushing the decisions in one night? Like, why are we getting the two semi-finals and the final tonight? And same with SmackDown. Surely this is an excuse to draw it out. I mean, Night of Champions isn't for like 3 weeks. So unless there's something else that's going to go towards this, I just think this result is going to be rushed a bit.
It could be rushed a bit. My feeling is, and this is where again with Alex gave some fantasy booking a minute ago, which I thought was really, really good. For me, it levels that fantasy booking. I think we're going to get 3 or 4 feuds built out of these tournaments that are done tonight and Friday, and I think it could build towards shaping that card for Night of Champions. Obviously, if you look, for example, on the SmackDown side, Austin Theory escaped, didn't he, with the United States Championship again? I reckon that him and Bobby, they'll rewind that. They'll do that once again at Night of Champions. I can see that being the US title match. So I think that they've got ways of perhaps tweaking these matches to include storylines. I think also we know Roman's returning to TV. The show's called Night of Champions. He's 1,000 days. He's thankfully not involved in this title scene at least. And I mean, you could build someone that could be involved on the SmackDown side that could be taking on the Tribal Chief at Night of Champions. And perhaps maybe it could be Roman or the Bloodline that could be stopping a certain superstar winning the World Heavyweight title.
Talking of superstars that aren't actually involved, why isn't Gunther getting a shot? Because Theory's getting a shot and he's the United States champion. So why isn't the Intercontinental champion getting a shot?
Well, Gunther recently got married, and I believe he's also been on his honeymoon. So I think he's absent for the time being, but he will be back. I think he'll be back in time for. So it's a chance to World Heavyweight Championship, Gunther. What are you doing? Get back in the scene. You danced on your wedding day, but dance yourself back to Monday Night Raw now. Let's get yourself that World Heavyweight title. But on a serious notion, though, big congratulations to Gunther. Very, very happy for him. And he'll be back. I reckon he'll have a match at Night of Champions as well, probably defending that Intercontinental Championship. It seems like the perfect place to bring him back onto TV. But kicking it with Leo in the house. Hope you're doing well, Leo. Thank you for checking out the stream. He says, I want Finn Balor to win. Here's why. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love Seth Rollins, deserves it. But I think it'd be a cool story if Seth was chasing the title and having to go through Judgment Day. I think that's a fun story. I think that would be a good way to do it. It gives something fresh for the Raw side afterwards. Let's take SmackDown out of this. To have a babyface that you want to win the championship, chasing it afterwards, certainly is a good thing because once that babyface does win it, obviously the fans will be even more satisfied at the end of it. So I think that has a fun suggestion in it. The only reason why I would disagree with it is purely because Seth is the only one to not lose to Roman Reigns. I don't want it to feel like a consolation prize, but certainly if you want to build a storyline here, kicking it with Leo has certainly got a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a justification angle for Finn with that Universal title having to give it up the night after winning it because of injury. So it's a fun possibility, but like you just said, Seth's the only one not to lose to Roman, so it makes more sense and to give that championship a bit more credibility for the fact that it's essentially been made because no one can beat Roman, so give it to the one guy who hasn't lost to Roman.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we'll have to see how that will play out. But we're gonna just go through the other superstars there before we break down. I think you have an idea, maybe some of us who we might be going for here. But C Nation Dog says, do we really have to see Bobby Lashley versus Austin Theory for the 50th time? Is it only the 50th, C Nation? It feels like these guys have been fighting for the belts since last year. You're totally correct. They just need to throw Seth Rollins back in there, and then it really will be a rewind of the end of last year. But it's been done a lot, hasn't it?
I was hoping that these two would get separated in the draft, but the fact they've both gone to SmackDown is very disappointing. But like I think, like I said the other day, with Roman not really being on SmackDown as much, that US title is really going to be the top title over there. So what we discussed is either Theory's going to have to really step up his game, or Bobby's essentially top face at the minute. So you need someone on TV every week. Bobby Lashley's your guy.
Absolutely, he's definitely a guy. Well, we talked about a lot of the Raw guys. Obviously, I think we can politely rule the Miz out. And as much as I like Shinsuke, he's on a push, I can see him just not being involved in a decision. I don't see him being pinned necessarily tonight unless he makes the final, which still would be great for Shin in that respect anyway, to be back into the conversation. It's been 2018, the last time he was there. If you look on the SmackDown side of things, we mentioned there Bobby and Austin. I imagine they cancel each other out. I don't know if you would agree. And there was at least 4 superstars left on the SmackDown side.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Edge is the one. One, he's a Hall of Famer. He's probably the biggest name on that side of the tournament. He had, like, story-wise, the heavyweight championship was the one he was carrying when he retired. So, like, he never got a chance to win the title at Mania when he faced Bryan and Roman. So I've got no problems with actually Edge moving back over. But then you've got, like, as for me, it would make more sense because it just he's the only one. If you're going to give it to someone on that side, I think Edge is the one to go for.
Do you know what? I want to talk through a couple of other superstars first, but then we're going to come back to it and I'll give you my take on it. But I think you make some brilliant points there. AJ Styles, obviously, is probably the other favourite. Obviously, Rey Mysterio, fantastic wrestler, but I don't see him going to that position again. Sheamus, again, would be a great person to be involved with it. But do we need... Well, maybe some people might want to see Sheamus move over to Raw because of the idea that then, I suppose, yes, you break up the Brawling Brutes, but maybe it leads back to getting Pete Dunne. Sheamus then is on the same brand, arguably as Gunther again. If you want to complete the full set, the full circle, win the IC title later down the line, Gunther then can move on to the top title. We talk about him not being involved in this. So there probably is a good argument for Sheamus to be involved with it. But AJ Styles for me is the other name. Obviously, he's come back in. He's now with the OC. He's been missing for a while with injury. He feels like a big deal. On SmackDown, he was the guy that was really talking about the world title last week on commentary. None of the other SmackDown superstars got the opportunity to. I feel like they could be pushing AJ Styles for a big position, but I wonder if that position is this world heavyweight title, or if we're going to eventually get the Bloodline versus the OC, and perhaps Roman Reigns could be a target in the very near future.
Possibly, but then who's not to say that you can't have the Judgment Day versus the OC over on Raw? Because it's there, it's a possibility. So, yeah, I'm not going to discredit on not AJ's chances. It's just, again, with this whole Bloodline story, I don't even think we're going to get to see Bloodline versus OC at this point, the way that their story arc is going at the minute. So I think the possibility of AJ going back to Raw is really good.
It could very well be, and it could be the right move. We'll have to wait and see how it'll play out. But let's break it down then, and let's give our final take prediction on it then, and we can go through some of the comments, and then we'll move ourselves on to Backlash. You talked about Edge. I think that Edge and AJ Styles is going to be the main event of SmackDown this week. They will be the final two, in my opinion. And I'm going to say that I think a lot of people are thinking AJ Styles. You made a point about Edge, and you talked about the World Heavyweight title. He had to give it up. And of course, you know, if you want to go with lineage in history, you want to kind of make this feel like an old title, but still a new title. Edge has everything that can connect those dots together, can play a real good emotional part of the storyline with it. And for me, I think Edge is going to be the guy as well. I really, really do. And I think if we talk about Monday Night Raw, I think that we could do Seth and Cody as the final two, and then Seth finally beats Cody. Maybe not necessarily in the cleanest of manner. I think Lesnar will cost him. If not, like you said, Seth versus Finn Balor, suggesting the comments would be fantastic to see as well. Seth versus Shin, we've not seen that for many, many years. So whatever the case, I think it's going to be Seth versus Edge coming out of Champions. Of course, those two have fought in Saudi Arabia before, had a great feud a couple of years ago. And of course, Seth has gone to another level since then. I think there'd be a match that would be certainly worthy of the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, I mean, the match itself, I don't think needs the whole heel-face dynamic. I think you can get away with it because it's a brand new title, so you can get away with just two simply great wrestlers having a great match for a brand new world title. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Balor versus Edge. I know we've seen it a couple of times before, but you throw a world heavyweight title on the scene, you've got Edge, the Hall of Famer, famously retired, having to give up the World Heavyweight Championship, against Balor, who's been a pain in his backside, first ever Universal Champion that never got to properly defend it and hasn't been in the main. I don't think he's held a world title since. So there is an interesting dynamic there to play with those two alone.
Absolutely, indeed. There is that sort of dynamic to do. So I have to see how it'll play out. It could be a fun, interesting way it's going to twist and turn. We'll have a better idea after Raw this evening. Of course, we'll know then the first superstar that's going to be in that position. SmackDown then will hopefully tell us a lot. But one thing's for sure, you've heard our takes on it and how we think it's going to go. Now it's to see what you all think in the comment section now below. Alex Storyworld says, but at Night Champions, I see Seth Rollins versus Balor, not AJ Styles. Maybe Edge, we'll see. Obviously, Seth versus Balor would be tonight if that's possible. So we'll see. It looks like it could be another Seth versus Edge there. C Nation saying that KO and Sami dropping the Undisputed Tag Titles Judgment Day this month. I have to see if that will go down. I'd be certainly up for that feud if it was to take place. Ed says, I don't think they want to beat Gunther. To be honest, this is another reason why I think Gunther is not involved with this. If you're going to put him in there, he can't lose. I mean, Gunther's on such a roll. I suppose in the triple threat environment, doesn't have to be involved in the decision, so that way you protect him. But I'm kind of with Ed on this comment here. I mean, if Gunther goes in, he has to win because, I mean, I look at Gunther and see he could be that next guy that, you know, Roman's a part-timer now, but Gunther could literally be your next Roman Reigns style guy. He has the faction. He's unbelievable in the ring with what he does. He's so over as a heel. He had that sort of run before as the United Kingdom champion. Certainly could do this sort of stuff in the main roster of WWE as well. And I think that's why Roman and Gunther are on different brands as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, the triple threat dynamic would have given him a great cover, but yeah, Gunther is like hopefully a future world champion. But like I said, I want to see him break the world. Is it Honky Tonk Man's record for longest IC title run? I'd like to see that record fired because this seems to be the thing at the minute. Is Triple H is all about breaking records, and that IC title has been there for 20 plus years now, nearly 30 years probably. So it's going to be good to see that one finally go. So yeah, man, I'm up for it. And say, imagine what could have happened if Gunther, if Vince was still in charge with Gunther, because apparently he was going to bury him and have him start losing matches. And it's just amazing how the last sort of 8-9 months have panned out with him. And I'm just so glad that he's in this spot now.
Absolutely, indeed. There, he's been absolutely incredible. Gone to strength to another level. Like you say, as an IC champion, it's been a really great run. Like you say, I see him beating Honky Tonk's record. Maybe then he'll probably lose the IC title in a multi-man match, and then he'll move himself up to the world title. And I think that you could look at, say, the likes of Seth probably could be holding it. And imagine Seth versus Gunther, and Gunther to win the title would be quite nice here. But Ed goes on to make another point. They don't want to beat Gunther, whereas they don't mind beating Theory. Theory's had a great run though as United States champion. Though, if you look at some of the names he's beaten, Seth Rollins, John Cena, Bobby Lashley, just to name a few. But like you say, Theory can take a pinfall loss, but it doesn't seem to hurt Theory so much, where I think right now with Gunther it would.
Yeah, I mean, the Theory's like, I'm not me finding the guy got F5'd off the top of a pod in Elimination Chamber by Brock Lesnar. So that guy has been put through the ring this past 12 months, and he's done really well, and he's had a great run with that US title. I imagine that, again, another one. Imagine what we could have got if Vince was still in charge, and I'm glad that he failed that cash in for the United States Championship. So it all seems to have just worked out nicely for a lot of these people.
Absolutely, indeed. Although I have learned a few selfie tips from Theory over the last 12 months or so. I'm joking, by the way. But Kicking Leo goes on to agree as well. The reason Gunther is not in it is because he should not be taking pins or losses right now. If he's in the tournament, he's going to the finals, but I don't think they'll put the title on him just yet. I think you're right, Leo, to be brutally honest. I think that the time isn't yet. It's coming. It's definitely near, but it's not right now. And of course, he will be returning soon. And of course, he will continue doing what he does as IC champion. But Sinisha says Brock will cost Cody in his match tonight because he's mad about the finish of Backlash. 100% agree. And certainly, I think that is very likely to happen this evening. Maybe Gunther's not in it because he wants to focus on the Intercontinental Championship right now and make it prestigious. That can always be another added, storyline narrative you can throw into it as well, because obviously the ring is sacred. That title is sacred with a lot of history. Gunther could go down that avenue if he wanted to. We've got
just the fact alone that title went like 12 months or however long it was without being on a pay-per-view alone was criminal. It is absolute criminal for that title.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Sinisha with a few comments, then we'll go on to WWE Backlash, which we're going to actually review on this show as well. Sinisha saying you can't have another heel champion. All the top 4 champions in WWE are heels. I mean, obviously Bianca Belair.
A face.
Bianca's a face, yes, but I suppose she was booed on in Puerto Rico, so she's definitely a heel there. But at the same time, I get where C Nation is coming from. We have with Roman has been a heel. Is it time that a babyface holds a world championship? It feels like obviously it's the best part now of 2.5 years since the last time a babyface held a world title on the men's side.
The more appealing story is the face chases the heel, the underdog story, the finally going through all the hurdles, and I mean. To be honest, this isn't a title that's going to go undefeated. Like we ain't going to go another 1,000 days before someone wins the World Heavyweight Championship. Like whoever wins this, I imagine will probably lose it within 6 months. So there's always an opportunity to build, and it's a good opportunity to build up someone new on the face side of everything.
Absolutely, indeed. There, Roman Reigns has beat Edge in the past destination. You're right, and I actually agree with this prediction. This is one of my predictions. Also, AJ facing Roman at Night of Champions. I think that will happen at that point. A couple of Austin Theory notes you've made as well here. Is also top champion of Raw because Raw didn't have a world champion at the time. This is nothing new to Austin Theory. So now he could be the top champion on SmackDown. That's where he shows up most. So yeah, he will be carrying that mantle when Roman Reigns is not there. But Roman does return on Raw this Friday. Of course, Austin Theory also did beat Edge in his title reign as well. Of course, we can't forget that one. Another big name that lost to Austin Theory. Seth Rollins is the right choice to win the World Heavyweight Championship. He is over. He's beaten Roman Reigns in the past. We need a babyface champion, says C Nation. And his last comment he's got for us now, I'm talking about the WWE Universal, Intercontinental, and United States. They are all held by heels. And of course, that is on the men's side. You are correct there indeed, C Nation. Of course, if you look at the women's championships, Rhea Ripley is a heel as well. Bianca is the only babyface of the top singles champions there. So yeah, it does feel the right move to give it to a babyface. I agree as well. Are we agreeing then, Steve, that we're going for Seth Freakin Rollins as our prediction to win this championship?
Yeah, I think he's probably the safest bet. If I was a betting man, that's who I'd put my money on. But don't be surprised if you see a possibility of an Edge or an AJ Styles, maybe.
It will be exciting. I think that is the one or the other of the two matches that will take place at, of course, Night of Champions. I think that we're probably looking for Cody versus Brock again. My original thoughts before Backlash was I thought it was going to be a bunkhouse brawl because they've been talking about the cowboy stuff a lot. But since the match was not decisive enough, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in the last man standing stipulation once again.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit skeptical about how they were going to finish that match, and we'll talk about it more when we get into it. But yeah, it does seem like they're going that way, like how after that match finished and everything that played out during that match.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you what, let's not waste any time really about it, shall we? And actually, maybe we should just dive into the idea of doing a WWE Backlash 2023 review. Obviously, the show took place in Puerto Rico. And obviously, before we go into in detail of the matches, how unbelievable were that crowd on the night? They were fantastic from start to finish, loud for every match. For me, it just goes to show with WWE doing these international shows now. Did Clash of the Castle, very loud, very passionate, fantastic show. One you attended, Steve, as well there. Toronto we did for Elimination Chamber. We've just done Puerto Rico. Yes, we have Saudi Arabia next. We're going back to London. Of course, we're going to London rather than Cardiff this time for Money in the Bank. There's been talks of the likes of Australia in the future. I think China's been mentioned. Bailey is calling out for Paris after the recent European tour. It kind of has that feel that
Japan would be a good shout as well.
It would be a good shout. I mean, the thing is that WWE is an international brand, and obviously, with like someone Nick Khan trying to push it like this, this kind of actually goes to show that WWE is that sort of show in town that can go around the world, has got these big reactions. And what's really fun about this as well, you look at a show like Backlash, where you had that with Puerto Rico, you see all the reactions elsewhere in other countries. When it comes back to the States, because now you're not getting these superstars as much, those reactions might start coming in the States as well, because it feels quite special to say, hang on, I don't see this guy very often. I don't see this girl very often. What an unbelievable job they're doing when they're performing in Puerto Rico and performing in London and performing in other places. Oh my God, I'm so pleased to see them performing in my hometown.
Yeah, I mean, it almost feels like every pay-per-view should be in a different country, aside from like the big four, big five, maybe, like hold them in the States. But all these essential, we call them B-list pay-per-views, but man, why not take them abroad? Because like I said, Clash was fantastic. 60,000 people absolutely tore the roof down. It was amazing. That Puerto Rico crowd was something else. Like, I'll be honest, I was at Clash, but I think that Puerto Rico crowd was even better than Wales, man, because they were immense. Especially when Bad Bunny come out, they were just unreal. I thought it was such a fantastic show, man. I can't remember the last time I've seen a crowd like that. I mean, maybe CM Punk's return for AEW when he came back in Chicago, but that's obviously hometown hero in hometown city. But yeah, that Puerto Rico crowd were absolutely unreal.
Absolutely, it's not just Bad Bunny, the hometown boy, that they were doing it for. They were doing it for everybody,
Zelina,
the whole night.
Everyone, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, let's go into some of the matches then, just to talk about them sort of as brief but as thorough as we can as well. And obviously, if we get time at the end, everybody, we will also dive into a little bit of questions as well for you. We want to try and get your involvement as well. But the Raw Women's Championship was match number one on the night. Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. Io was without damage control at the start of the match, was targeting Bianca's arm. This led then to a couple of impressive spots with just one arm. Bianca, the Gorilla Press Slam, where Io landed on her face, was one particular spot that looked quite naughty at the time, but was very well put together. Also, the one-arm powerbomb from the blocked Hurricane Run attempt on the second turnbuckle as well. Damage control, though, of course, in the end, did get themselves involved. Did look like she was doing a good enough job on her own. She was going to go for her moonsault. Bailey was holding down the ponytail of Bianca Belair, which I thought was a creative spot. The referee caught it. That led to the delay. Obviously, then when Io went for it, because Bayley obviously had to let go of the braid, Io missed the moonsault. And of course, that led to then the KOD for Bianca to pick up the victory. Unbelievable match between these two ladies. I thought was the right match to kick off the show. And what I have to say as well was really fun. We talked about this crowd already. They were treating Io as the babyface and Bianca as the heel. Every time Io got any offense in, they were cheering so much, and it got louder and louder as that match went on. It was kind of like watching Rock versus Hogan at WrestleMania 18 in a weird way, because Bianca Belair is kind of like the over person who's like cheered all the time. Io has not been presented at all as a babyface since coming up. Yes, I know it's probably not as high profile names as Rock and Hogan, but at the same time, it had that same feel. This was a really fun match. Like I say, it gave a different element of excitement. Just watching the crowd, just watching the in-ring action. It was a superb in-ring contest. Loved the story that they played with it, and coming out of it, like we discussed in the preview, this seems to be another notch in the belt here for what could be to the breakaway of Damage Control.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want a clue as to what they should do with Io Sky, just put her in front of a crowd like that, because that crowd was so hot for Io, and they were hoping that Io would pick up the dub. It just shows how these crowds can manifest things in WWE. Like we had Kofi Mania, then we have the whole Daniel Bryan situation, and it was all because of really because a lot of the unit of the crowd were getting into it, and the crowd were backing these people, and they would constantly call these names. But I mean, I was really expecting this was the point we was going to get the breakup of Damage Control, but unfortunately not. But like I said, it's something for them to do when they're on TV next, so I can't complain. I just honestly thought this would be the moment. Like Bayley's cost her a shot at that Raw Women's Championship that's on SmackDown. So I said, I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm glad that Io's get like it. It's amazing that it took a crowd in Puerto Rico to do that, because I don't think I've ever seen a US crowd do that for one person. But they were just, like I said, just unreal crowd all night for people like that.
Absolutely, indeed. I mean, when you go to look at it as well, like with the storyline going forward, I think was actually could get another opportunity at whatever the women's championship will be by the time we roll around tonight of champions. Bianca, will she still hold the royal title by then? I'm not so sure, but I think will get another shot, and it'll be the case of Bayley, you cost me. I can do this on my own. I don't need you. I can do this, so don't come to ringside. I think then probably could lose. There could be the element then as well where, Bayley in the meantime goes, well, hang on, I've won us a tag team title shot, and you're losing yours. Maybe you're the problem of the team. I think it could really plant those seeds in there when it comes to the Damage Control breakup, which I reckon should be done in time for Money in the Bank or SummerSlam.
I'll be honest with you, I'd rather see the breakup first, because I wouldn't want to see Io lose twice to Bianca Belair, pay-per-view after pay-per-view. I think if I was going to see Io do it again, I'd rather it be on a level playing field with the possibility that Io could win, because I think that would offer more of a match. Whereas if you was to go in and she's still part of Damage Control and she then loses again, I think it would, for me personally, I think it kills a bit of a momentum for actually having an opportunity at winning the title. So I'd rather see the breakup first. I'd rather see Dakota stay with Bayley and Io go off and do her own thing, and I'd rather that be built for the next however long, and then Io gets another shot at Bianca at some point in the future.
Absolutely. Do you reckon, because we were talking about this on the Friday stream that we did, I had Ashley Pizarro on the show, and we were talking about the idea of Dakota Kai and what happens if Damage Control breaks up. Do you reckon it's probably important, if she doesn't get lost in the shuffle, maybe that the team with Bayley remains?
I think it's probably best at the minute until Dakota gets, like, she's not had a lot of singles matches. It's majority, or like I don't know. It's hard to explain with Dakota, because she's always done her best work when she seems to be paired with someone. Like when she was with Raquel, she was doing some great stuff. I forget who else she was with in NXT that she was doing some great stuff with as well. It almost feels like she's a perfect tag team partner, and she's destined for that tag team scene. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to see her win a world championship, but I don't personally think I've seen enough of Dakota as a single star to see where she'll go on the SmackDown brand.
No, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, she's definitely got all the talent in the world to do so. So do we have enough time to work with it? Has creative got something for it? It'd be interesting to see what will happen. But maybe the team is what's the best thing to do in the meantime. Situation with an interesting tape. Io Sky isn't over. The fans are just getting tired of Bianca Belair. Would this have happened had this been somewhere else? It's an interesting question. We'll never know. Will it happen going forward? I think is probably the best question to ask now, because the Puerto Rico was the first place it happened. Will we start seeing people now boo Bianca Belair in other towns? And could it start perhaps needing to have a transition to the heel turn to keep Bianca Belair's title reign relevant?
Yes and no, because I feel like Mania would have been the biggest scene for that if you were going to have a crowd start booing Bianca, and she was still very much cheered at Mania. So I understand where C Nation's coming from with that question, but I think EO is just. I just think EO is too good at the minute. Like, I think that she's a lot of people's favourites that want to see her do well. Like, her run in NXT was fantastic. Yes, predominantly a lot of it was heel work, and when she did turn face, she wasn't really on TV. So I don't know, but like I said, I'm all for seeing it go again. But then I've said for ages I'd rather see Bianca turn heel. It's something she hasn't done since she's been on the main roster, and it's long overdue, I think.
I think it could be an interesting turn for the character. I think it's certainly, like you said, it feels long overdue to happen, especially if they want Bianca to be champion for like another year, for example. I think that'd be the best way to do it. But at the same time, I'm with you. I think that I don't think everyone's going to boo Bianca, but I think there could be the position of where it may happen in odd occasions. For a second, I thought I was in Toronto. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was usually Canada's the place back in the old days, back in the noughties, that would boo the face and actually cheer the heel. But I do think Io Sky is over, myself personally. I just think that she's not been given the breakout moment on SmackDown or Raw yet, and I think that her moment is coming.
Do you know what? I tell you what. Do you know what the deciding factor will be? Is when you put Bianca Belair against Charlotte Flair, and whoever that crowd boos, if the crowd boos Bianca in that match, that's how much you can tell they don't want her as champion. Because not a lot of people like Charlotte. I think Charlotte's fantastic. I just think her best work is as a heel. And that will be the real deciding one when it comes to, if you want a fan's opinion, like an arena full of people, is put those two in a ring together and see who gets the loudest boos.
Absolutely, yeah. It could be interesting to see how it would play out, actually. Certainly, if you don't want to see go down as well. But Noob & Co. TV says, I would like to see Asuka and Io as a tag team, because Asuka needs something to do after WrestleMania 39 instead of being away from TV. Obviously, now with SmackDown draft taking shape now, I reckon she'll be coming back to TV very, very soon. Of course, she has been on the live events. This could be an interesting dynamic. Obviously, if we did Bayley and Dakota as a team, Io would need a partner. Asuka would be definitely a suitable candidate.
It would be like it's like I said, it depends on what they're doing with them NXT Women's Tag Team titles, whether they're going to convert them into a SmackDown Women's titles or whatever. I don't know, but they seem to be building some sort of tag team division, and I wouldn't be against seeing that. I think it would be a great tag team partnership. I just we've kind of seen it before with Asuka and Kairi Sane, so it's like, do we really want to revisit that same dynamic again? I'd rather see Asuka going for world titles, if I'm honest.
I mean, for me, obviously, I think for a short-term thing, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah,
like you said, but I'm with you. I think Asuka for world titles, certainly. I actually want Asuka versus Io Sky. Actually, it's a match I still want to see after their Japanese.
I think that sounds better.
You know, that for me was that's what I want to see. But hey, look, I like all ideas on the table here.
That's what I'm saying. If they're doing these international pay-per-views, you book one in Japan and you do Asuka versus Io for a world title. Do you know what I mean? That will sell them tickets alone, that one match.
Yeah, it would be a very, very good match to do indeed there. Moving on then, in the meantime, Seth Freakin Rollins defeating Omos on the show. Look, we talked about this. I see your head in your hands there. Because I actually do want your take on this, actually, because I think it potentially could be Omos's best match to date. Because I remember the Crown Jewel match, and we talked about it afterwards, and you was actually really impressed by the Crown Jewel match with Braun Strowman. Was this one better than the match with Braun, or not?
From a character development point of view, I'm going to say no. From a in-ring point, I'd probably say yes. It was definitely a better match because Seth, no discredit to Braun, but Seth has the ability to raise the level. And because, again, the big versus small guy dynamic, you've seen it before, that it always tends to work a lot better than having two big guys go against each other. But like we said on the prediction show, I can't understand what you're doing with Omos if he's just going to take another loss at a pay-per-view. What is the point of putting him on Raw and SmackDown every week, having matches, squashing jobbers, and then when it comes to the important matches on pay-per-view against big stars, he's always losing? What's the point? Where do you plan on going with him?
It'd be interesting to see where they are going to go with him. But obviously, on this occasion, I think it was right he took the pinfall because you want to have Seth have that momentum going to this tournament, especially as Omos is not one of the 12. If he was one of the 12, you could argue differently. But at the same time, I do think when I looked at the match, and like you just said there a couple of seconds ago, this was like a David versus Goliath story. Seth could really sell for Omos on those big moves. I think it works quite well, actually, rather than just having big dude versus big dude, because Omos, tall dude against a normal sized dude, looks like a small dude. You know, you have that, like I said on the build-up, the attraction style of what Omos is meant to be. He actually stands and goes, "Whoa, that's a big dude there." You know, that's the idea of it. And obviously, I liked the moment in the match where Seth went for the curb stomp, and you just saw the no sell, the neck wouldn't go down from Omos. Just those little character traits really helped just build the beast and build that giant up. Of course, it did get to a point where Seth did get back into the match. I think it was a tornado DDT from the turnbuckle that got to the advantage. We saw 2 curb stomps, almost kicking out. I think that. Obviously, not many people kick out of a curb stomp at all. Almost kicked out of 2. And then we got the top rope curb stomp, which I thought was a fun way to finish the match off. That certainly was, it was something that was just a bit of a nice little sort of tweak, original way to end the match to give Seth that victory. For me, I quite enjoyed this match. I can't lie.
Oh no, yeah, I enjoyed it, but my point is just Omos is taking another loss, and there's so many losses he can take before you get to the point where you're like, why am I watching this guy? Why are you booking him? Because all you do is build him up for pay-per-view matches and you have him lose. Like it has to be a point where his next match on a pay-per-view, he has to win, regardless of who it's against. He needs you know what I mean? He needs a win against someone, whether it's even against MVP, and like he's just sick of MVP finally, and those two have a match. I don't know. But he needs to start picking up wins on pay-per-views, because beating jobbers every week is fine. But this ain't AEW, and they don't work on a win-loss ratio where you can get 40 wins against jobbers but then lose the important matches. It don't work like that, unfortunately.
No, absolutely not. But interesting. Maybe Omos wins his next big match, because obviously being at, let's say, Night of Champions, which is your next show, Omos is usually on these shows. Maybe Omos can get a big win on this show. Maybe it's the right time to put him against the right opponent. Be interested to see who they would have in mind if he can beat on both shows. Who's the right candidate that could go against Omos next, in your opinion?
This is the thing. And because it's Night of Champions, I'm expecting every title to be on the line. So I'm expecting Roman to defend. I'm expecting Theory to defend. I'm expecting Gunther to defend. I can't see Omos beating any of them, really. I can't see a Theory. Yes, I could possibly see him beating Theory, but I can't see Omos being top guy on SmackDown. I can't see it at the minute, because he's got so many losses under his belt. There's no credibility to him. So I don't know. And like I said, I just need to start picking up wins for me.
Do you know who I think would be the right people to go for next? Obviously, it's a bit of fun that I mentioned this now, but I think Rey Mysterio will be a good feud for Omos right now, because again, it's that sort of David versus Goliath idea. I don't think it harms Rey Mysterio to take that loss to Omos. That would give Omos a big victory over a former World Heavyweight Champion. I think that could be the start where you could start building up going forward for Omos, because this granted, you know, people will say that they're not a fan of Omos. That's totally fine, but there is something that there's an appeal with some portion of the audience with the guy. And obviously, if you want to go from an outsider casual, not the hardcore fans, not us, but the casuals will look and see that that's someone they may go and tune in, because that's someone different on their television screen. If they can find ways where Omos can connect and put him in the right storylines, put him in the right style of matches, this match was perfectly fine to be put on in front of our crowd or whatever. This was a good time. So they should look to try and do this sort of stuff going forward for Omos, and hopefully they can make something connect, which even works for us.
Yeah, they just need to do something with him. I mean, like, either develop his character or give him some wins, one of the two.
Absolutely, indeed, there, absolutely. C-Nation said that this was a very similar finish to with Matt Riddle at Clash at the Castle. Apparently, did it to Matt Riddle. He did do it to Matt Riddle, so it's a very well remembered there. C-Nation, obviously, almost always wins the matches that does not matter. This is what always happens to big guys. This happened to Braun Strowman too. Very true, very true. It does happen to Braun as well.
Hey! Braun Strowman won that Green Royal Rumble title. What are you talking about? That we never saw ever again.
I think, well, to be fair, I think some people probably didn't even watch that show, let alone see that ever again. But that was one of Braun's hottest points, didn't it, at that point? So,
hey, wait a minute. He won the tag team titles with an 11-year-old child. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
I'm sorry
that
to
was
bring that up.
painful memories. But go and see NXT's rant on the worst WrestleMania of all time. It's worth it for watching that video alone. Temple Plays in the house. Hope you're doing well. Temple Plays. Priest versus Bad Bunny was the best match of the night. Should have main event of the show. Would you consider it is the best PLE has done this year? Obviously, we're not going to give our full take on it, but it certainly is in conversation. I would say as a brief one. We'll answer that question properly at the end of the stream, Temple, if you don't mind. But obviously, good shout for Priest and Bunny being a good match. We can also think about the other pay-per-views as well during the stream, but between now and the end, so we can actually make a full, fair comparison. We've also got C Nation says Omos should have beaten Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania 38. That's where he went downhill. So I suppose an interesting argument at the time there.
Another point, another loss.
Yeah, there's been a few of them. And obviously, Temple says pop for Carlito. The guy looked jacked. Rumours of him signed to WWE, which I'd like to see him on SmackDown in the US title division. Tony D versus Carlito has money all over it. But of course, Tony D, as Sinchen reminds, is still in NXT at this moment. There is rumours with Carlito. We'll talk about more Carlito as well as we get to the match itself. But it's a kind of case of where the door is open. I don't think anything is signed, sealed, and delivered. But I'd love to see him back in WWE, of course.
Oh, man. Yeah, I would too.
Yeah, it would be cool to see. But we'll move on to what is match 3, and we'll promise to keep things in the order of the show. The US title match, obviously not too much to say here with Austin Theory, Lashley, and Bronson Reed. The big meaty men doing cool moves. Obviously, it got to a point where Bronson Reed sort of missed a moonsault. Then he was speared by Bobby Lashley. And then obviously Austin Theory threw Bobby Lashley out of the ring, picked up the pin for 1, 2, 3. This was the shortest match on the show. Probably felt the most flattest moment of the show, if there was such thing with this crowd. But overall, I thought the match was fine. There was nothing really to talk too much about it. As I said earlier on the stream, talking about the World Heavyweight Championship, I think that we're basically leading to Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley at Night of Champions.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much summed this one up in the predictions where we turned around and went Bronson Reed is purely in this to take the pin for this one, just to further develop this story and push it on the line. But it was. Do you know what I mean? It was an interesting. I like the fact that you've got the 3 different body types. You've got Austin Theory, the small guy. You got Lashley, the muscle guy. You got Bronson, the big guy who can just do the extraordinary things. It was a great dynamic to have. Yeah, it was just an entertaining match. If anything, like I said, I had no problems with it. I just thought it was what it needed to be at this point, where we've got the draft coming up, and it was just a pay-per-view that they have to get done before all the new drafts take place.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. There, and I think it did tick the boxes for me. It's just not anything so standout, but there were some cool moves in this match, and certainly it's worth a watch. But it probably felt the flattest match on the show for me, if we're being honest, especially with the crowd as well. Bobby Lashley should move from the United States Championship. Would love him to face Roman Reigns. Certainly think that will happen at some point later this year. But yeah, I mean, it would be quite fun to see at this moment. But I think that they'll stick with the US title run just for now, especially if Roman is not around all the time. Sination also goes on to say that Bronson Reed wasn't going to win because he was drafted. He was drafted to Raw. Therefore, there was a chance that he would win before the draft happened. Yeah, absolutely. If he'd been drafted to SmackDown, would have been much more of an opportunity for that to happen. And Temple Plays just revealing himself. It's almost like the mask has come off. Temple Underground had to reinvent himself as not just wrestling on the channel now. Fantastic, interesting to see Temple. Well, I'll tell you what. Subscribe to Temple. Does brilliant stuff indeed there on his channel. And looking forward to seeing what additional content has come to the channel as well. We'll move on to match 4, which was the SmackDown Women's Championship, Rhea Ripley versus Zelina Vega. Wow, the reaction to Zelina coming ringside. Obviously, she does some fantastic cosplay. She now came as Puerto Rico down to ring with a flag obviously wrapped around her. Obviously, the emotions got the best of her before the match, but it was such a beautiful moment to see the cheers, to see for her how much it meant to her to perform in front of the Puerto Rican crowd. I thought it really just added a good layer of emotion to this match.
Yeah, I was welling up myself for her. Like, curse for having children, man, because I tell you what, having kids, your emotions just hit you differently now, man. And I really felt for her, man. And you could see the pride in her face, man. And I was really, like, it was just a shame that we all knew that she was going to lose this match, which was the biggest problem. It was like, if maybe Rhea had a 4, 5, 6 month run before this match come along, then there was a possibility Zelina could have won it, and it would have been nice going into it. But first title defense, yeah, we just knew that Zelina wasn't going to win, unfortunately. But no, it was, like I said, it was it was an expected Zelina Rhea Ripley match, but that crowd just made it feel so much more special and so much more just intense. It was unreal.
Absolutely. But the thing is, like you say, even though we knew the result, that emotion, it was real, it was raw, it just added a different layer to what the match was. Even though the match was only 7 minutes and we knew the result, just those couple of moments where there was near falls, you just thought to yourself, what if? Just what if? I mean, obviously that moment there were. Yeah, absolutely. The Meteor moment, obviously, she did the Viva La Raza, she hit the 619 as well. But of course, then there was just one kick from Rhea Ripley, hit the Riptide, and it was the 1-2-3. It's the right result, like you say. Rhea Ripley just won the SmackDown Women's Championship. We'll get the Monster heel heat for it as well. But it certainly was a magical moment, a magical few minutes, and it definitely was booked right, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. It's the right result. It's but like I said, luckily enough for Zelina, it wasn't really so much about winning the title. It was the fact that she got to be back in her home country and she got to embrace it and she got to wrestle in front of her mum and her uncle and the rest of her family. And it was just a really special moment for her. And I'm glad it happened for her. And it was Malachi Black on Twitter afterwards. He put a lovely tweet out about it as well. And I was like, man, what a special moment for her.
It really was. It really was lovely. And like you say, there was Zelina did her post the following day as well. The emotion, the pride, and just everyone sort of chiming in as well, just sharing that as well. It was very, very nice. And yeah, for me, I thought it was awesome the way it was put together. And yeah, it was just done right. If you look at a different time period with WWE, I don't think it would have been done as classy as well as this was done. So hats off to everybody involved. Temple Place Mrs. Bobby Roode, we do as well. He's still very injured at the moment. Hopefully, he'll be back at some point in the future. But C Nation is tied though. Wrestlers trying to win title in their home country because the wrestler that never wins would like to see one do it. I think it just comes down to timing, C Nation.
It's the WWE trope, man, and no one ever wins in their home city, man. It's impossible.
It just is how it is. But well, when you do that and your hometown hero doesn't win, there's always a risk that perhaps the crowd could turn. So there was only one match you could do next to make it right. And this is why when everyone says that it should have been the main event, the only reason this match now should have been the main event is if Rhea Ripley and Zelina was before it. Because for me, the match placement of this was perfect. The San Juan street fight, Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest. A lot of people after this show were saying that this should have been the main event. I can understand the reason why, but do you agree with what I've just said there? Or do you think that still it would have been fine to put this later on?
No, it was the perfect timing, but then if anything, Rhea versus Zelina should have been the second to last match because the end of this match and that crowd, this should have been your go home match. This should have been what everyone would have been walking at the pay-per-view talking about. This was so unbelievably fantastic. It was unreal, and I'm not afraid to say this is probably my favorite celebrity match.
I mean, to be fair, it's brilliant.
It delivers on all expectations, and the fact that someone like Bad Bunny, who is a music artist, he's not a wrestler, and he's doing some stuff that you're not expecting him to do, or even willing to put his body through, like taking that Michinoku driver off the top of the road cases through the tables. It's a hell of a bump to take for someone who's never wrestled before. I mean, yeah, Logan's done some great stuff, but Logan's wrestled amateur level, so he's used to doing these kind of things. So my props to him, man. It was that, like, this is up there. That and the Sami Zayn, Johnny Knoxville one, like, it is. That's a great celebrity match just for the goofball craziness. But this was just this was unreal. The time, the place, the crowd, everything. The everyone that got involved in it. It was great, man.
I mean, literally, for the word off, I mean, Damian Priest came out looking like a megastar heel the way he was. Like, just, everyone was booing at him, and obviously Bad Bunny come out. Look, it was like singing the national anthem. Everyone just singing every single word of Bad Bunny's song when he came down to ring. So it was like a gig. I mean, it was to the point, it reminded me of like watching the old ECW days, ECW Arena, where it was like an outsider coming and they would give that person, proper hell. We were on the side, like almost like it's Cena wins, we riot back in the day, if you know what I mean. It had that kind of vibe about it. And obviously, Bad Bunny, big wrestling fan, obviously one of the biggest music stars out there. Must have been a fan of Raven. Came down with a shopping trolley full of toys.
That's what I thought when I saw the trolley.
Absolutely, it was great to see. And what I loved about this match was the story throughout, because with Damian Priest, it was a kind of thing of like, you're in my world. you know, rather than me being in your world. So I don't get on the stage and sing on when you're doing the thing. So Bad Bunny obviously knew he was like the celebrity was probably out of his depth, so he was using the weapons early on. Damian Priest felt like he didn't need them. He felt like it was an experience factor. He could actually make Bad Bunny as well with his inexperience walk into mistakes. Like when he walked up the aisle, made Bad Bunny chase him just so he could sort of turn around and knock him to the floor, take full advantage. When you go outside, Bad Bunny will follow. It just was those sort of little tweaks. I liked those elements of the story. Obviously, when it broke through into the crowd as well, which I thought was a nice element to a classic street fight. It felt like it was something out of like the Attitude Era, if we're being honest, of a typical street fight as well. The spot that was done off was like a podium sort of area where they went through a table.
Driver or whatever it was for the tables,
Yeah, that was a brilliant looking spot, probably one of the highlight spots of the match. But obviously, when they got back into the ring and they both were knocked down, obviously Judgment Day coming in to help Damian Priest out, Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio. And obviously this led to Rey Mysterio coming out. And we obviously then saw another person that was going to come out to help. Now, it was Carlito, the person that come out, spit in the face of people who didn't want to be cool. And I tell you what, it's got over 8 million views. Yeah, it was so cool. Over 8 million views on YouTube already at the time of recording. It's been one of the most popular things since.
This was very similar to when Rey Mysterio made his surprise return in the Rumble. It had that same kind of pop reaction. Like when Ray turned at the Rumble, I remember that YouTube clip did an untold amount of numbers. I'm not being funny. I've gone back and watched it about 15 times because it's just so good, man. And like Carlito he's a jacked guy. He's like 44 years old or something like that. And he looks unreal, man. I like when he came back in the Rumble a couple of years ago, I was like, he looks like he could still go today. Man, I would so much love to see Carlito come back, man.
Same. I mean, now we can actually answer Temple Play's question in full depth. Carlito, yes, we'd love to see him come back in some fashion. SmackDown would be great. Obviously, the LWO are on there, so if they want to do it as a cameo, if they want to do it as a full-on thing, we'll definitely be down for seeing it. I think it would be pretty exciting to see. But obviously, when you look to see how things play out further, we found that Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio wanted to sort of get away. Obviously, the apple was spat into Dominic Mysterio's face as well with a classic Carlito moment. Obviously, we had the music hit. It was very cool. And then obviously we'd seen him earlier than I hand the candlestick over to Bad Bunny. So we knew he was in the building. But of course, the music hit. Savio Vega, also another Puerto Rican legend there, going right back to the New Generation era at this point. Of course, one of the Undertaker's boys as well. Savio coming out, then brought out the rest of the LWO as well. The beatdown, the numbers game. There was no chance Finn Balor and Dominic Mysterio had, so they're not being buried at all. They're selling to everything going on perfectly as well. And I mean, to be fair, Savio Vega is probably in his 50s or so, and he's
58 years old, and he's still doing that stuff.
He still can throw that leg around. He had no problem doing that. So that was really, really cool to see. Everyone fights to the back, obviously. We get then towards the end of the match. And I mean, Bad Bunny hit the Canadian Destroyer. Hit the sliced bread as well, which apparently is a tribute to AJ Lee as well, learning afterwards. So, yeah, Bad Bunny picking up the win with the Bunny Destroyer or the Puerto Rican Destroyer, whatever
Bunny Destroyer is called, yeah.
Yeah, so, to pick up the W. But, for me, as was said, match of the night was brilliant. I can understand, obviously, why people say this should have been the last match on the show. Like I said, if you put the SmackDown Women's Championship before it, I can understand them, but this was the perfect match to follow that. There is one other reason why I think this shouldn't have been the main event, because of what actually takes place with the main event, but it's just a storyline arc. It's not as anything as majorly important, but at the same time, I thought this match was brilliant.
My issue is that it's a co-main event, but it's not even the second to last match. I think that's just the biggest insult in itself. Like, just don't call it a co-main event, because if it's not even going to be the second to last match, what's the point? They had another match in between, and it was like, I really thought this was quite stupid.
See, the thing is with that, this is why I don't mind it, because if you'd have put Cody versus Lesnar after that, I mean, the crowd are going to come down a bit. I mean, to think about it, the Bloodline 6-man tag team match, which is the matches follow. So let's get the graphic up for you with Solo Sikoa, Usos, Matt Riddle, Sami Zayn, KO. Four of these guys were in the main event at night one of WrestleMania not too long ago. Now we're in the cool-down match. Then the Divas match from 2008 being put in before the main event there. This is your cool-down match. If you'd have had Cody and Lesnar there, I don't think the crowd would have been as lifted again for that big match at the end. So it kind of made sense here. But I mean, the 6-man tag team match, the match was fine. I still feel it's on cool-down. I think it now needs to finish. I think the most interesting part of this was the Usos and Solo Sikoa. It was more bloodline related storytelling that was more interesting here, especially with the fact that Solo kept, basically telling him he would do his part, the Usos would do theirs. Obviously, Jimmy made effort in the match to actually say, so we're doing our bit. It's now your time to do yours. Of course, Solo tagged himself in on Jey Uso when Jey Uso was upset with Sami Zayn, said it's your fault our family's breaking up. Jey, though, being the hothead that he usually is, tagged himself back in. I thought that was a fun little stare down. We had a moment where Solo looked like he could have did the spike to Jey Uso. Didn't happen in the end, but of course it felt like a tempted moment. And of course, it got to a point where, I thought the babyfaces were going to win, but there came a moment in the match when Matt Riddle tagged himself in and I went, Bloodline's winning. Because it just felt like it was the bro Derek done from Riddle to Jey Uso. Solo gets in, hits that spike, and then 1, 2, 3. And there was that still bit of uncomfortableness after the match, but it was really well done. And then there was that moment where Solo kind of just went, why? And he sort of was with the Usos at the end to finish it off. I thought the match was decent. I thought the storyline was more interesting than the match, if I'm being brutally honest. I think I've seen enough of it. I need everyone to go their own way. My last little thing I'll say before I throw over to you, Steve, is that I think that this is actually a part of the storyline that's going to be quite key when we go to further down the year, because I think we look at the idea now that Solo potentially turning on the Usos when it happened. I don't think it's going to happen. They reminded Solo here, you're our brother. And I think that eventually Solo will be with the Usos turning on Roman.
It's a good shot. I can understand where you're coming from, and it more than likely probably will be the end result in it all. But then I don't think it's more going to be a case of that they're going to turn on Roman. I think it's more going to be a case of they're just going to walk away from Roman, because I can't see the three of them beating up Roman, because do you know what I mean? There's still the whole family dynamic to it. So I think it's more a case of we're just gonna walk away from you and leave you, and that's how we get Roman in a solo dynamic going into Mania next year, which is where I presume he will finally lose that Universal title against Cody, for example. But like I said, I can see perfectly where you're coming from. Yeah, this match was all about the story. The wrestling was just I was still concerned about KO, and obviously after the match that he had, was it last week, when he seemed to have done his knee or his ankle in. So I didn't know if he was still going to be able to go. But yeah, Riddle being in there, as much as he shoved down our throats, him being in this match to take the pin was the right decision as well. So we can't really argue with it. It was, like you said, it's more about the story for this one.
It's more about the story. I think it was suitable. I think rather than when you looked at that, you could have argued it was a 5-star classic, the WrestleMania match between Sami, KO and the Usos. This here had a different message, a different story that would come to it. And I think that when you look at that, it certainly, I think, was the right move at the end of the day. I thought that at the time the babyfaces were going to win to throw more friction here. Now they're actually all on side, and they're actually going to be now. What's Roman going to do now? Is he going to be all happy that the Usos have picked up a victory? Is he going to say you only did it because Solo picked up the W? It's interesting to see how it's going to all play out when it comes to SmackDown this upcoming week when Roman does return. But certainly interesting indeed. We'll go into a few comments just in the meantime, because we have a few that have come in. We'll breeze through a couple of them.
I just want to add to one that you put up a minute ago that C Nation said about Priest being the weakest member of the Judgment Day.
There.
I'm telling you now, though, after that performance at the weekend and how much he protected Bunny and how much he sold for Bunny as well, I'm telling you what, he has seriously elevated his stock levels in WWE. Everything he was doing, everything he was selling, I'm telling you what now, has made him it's just. I hopefully opened the creative side, the creative team in WWE's eyes to the Priest, and going, do you know what, he can be a top guy, because we've all read the reports and we've all seen that how amazed everyone backstage was after the match with Bad Bunny and stuff like that. You've got to put a lot of that down to Priest. He was the other guy in that match. He helped delivered it, and I'm really glad that Priest is, like I said, finally getting to, but like we said earlier, he's finally getting back to that point where he's building himself to being a top guy.
Joe, I have to 100% agree with that comment there. I mean, I agree, C Nation, with what he's trying to say. Obviously, not at WrestleMania, probably was seen as strong. But you look at that match today, not you just said anything, Steve. I agree with you wholeheartedly, because you look at that. Everyone said Bad Bunny stole the show. Bad Bunny does steal the show here, but it takes two to tango. Damian Priest did all the selling, sold his leg perfectly during the match with some of the kendo shots. Yeah. The way that he put every move over, the way that every storyline arc was done in this match, the pacing and the way everything was done right. Damian Priest is the experienced one in that match, and he's come out looking, smelling of roses, arguably you could say. And he's now in a part of these 12 superstars for this World Heavyweight Championship, despite losing to Bad Bunny. And it's a huge recognizable moment as well. He's sharing the ring with, the attraction that is Bad Bunny on this show. That's what all the outsiders are going to come in and watch, is they can know who Damian Priest is from WWE going forward. Exactly. They might not know necessarily who some of the other guys are, but Damian Priest is one they will know. So I think, like you said, that there was a way now where, this argument probably could have been made a few weeks ago, but I think Damian Priest that was his WrestleMania. That was his WrestleMania. Same as Zelina, it was her WrestleMania. And I think that's why that's with those levels, and that's where they've got to where they got to, and where it's going to lead to moving forward. And I think it's going to be a very bright future for them. So we have to wait and see how it's all going to play out. But Sinistry goes on to say as well, we'd like to see Logan Paul versus Pat McAfee at WrestleMania 40, and a battle with the celebrities, the battle with the blondes, whatever you want to call it. You can do whatever you want with that, but it would be certainly a fun match to see.
Yeah, it's. I don't think their styles would. I'd like. That's almost like, when you get, what is it? You get them celebrity versions of sporting events and stuff like that. It just, to me, that sounds like a catastrophe waiting to happen. Like, don't get me wrong, it would probably be entertaining as anything, but it sounds like an absolute nightmare on paper.
Yeah, it's a nightmare on paper, but both have done quite well in the ring where they've been given the opportunity. But Logan Paul obviously has been unreal in the ring as well. So I hope, Pat's just become a father, of course.
Pat's coming off a loss to Vince McMahon. He shouldn't be anywhere near a ring.
Well, I think he'll probably be away for the ring for the meantime anyway. But congratulations to Pat McAfee, just becoming a father. Brad in house says Paul Heyman is up to something. He usually is, even from his ECW days, even from his WCW days when he was living dangerously as Paul Lee dangerously. Fatal 4-Way, a Night of Champions, all of the Bloodline. I don't see it happening that soon, if we're being honest, Brad. But certainly, thank you for your suggestion anyway.
I'd be more interested in a 3-on-1 handicap match with Usos and Solo versus Roman in the handicap is a tag team. I think that would be a much more interesting dynamic.
I think it could be an interesting dynamic as well. But I personally, for me, I think the problem with all of it, Night of Champions, I think it's far too soon. I can see this Bloodline story playing out. I can see it playing out for up to another 12 months still further down the line.
Zayn next year.
Yeah, it could be made up. That could be that point now. Zayn Charles, who has the best UK pay-per-view card, AEW or WWE? Hard to say. None of them have booked matches yet this year, so it's hard to really make a comment. But, obviously, AEW's got a big stadium show.
I think with AEW, I think if somehow they can get Punk on that card as well. Like, I know it's already sold about 60-something thousand tickets, maybe more now, because it's been, I don't know, the tickets have been on general sale since Friday, which your boy's going to. Gassed about it, can't wait. But if they can get Punk on that show, I'm telling you, that show will sell out 100%.
I agree with you. I think that it certainly will as well there. I think that it's going to be a full-on sellout. I've got no doubt in my mind. The fact they've already done 60K, they just need to add a few matches to it. And yeah, I think it's going to go all the way. Most of
the tickets remaining, I think, are the cheap seats, which are 30 quid. I'm not being funny. Half the time, people are just going to be like, do you know what, 30 quid, I'll go.
Yeah, absolutely. Sedation goes on to say Matt Riddle can't go after the Bloodline anymore. So Sikoa has beaten him 3 times. Thankfully, Matt Riddle was also on Raw, so he should not be allowed anywhere, and even for that reason as well. So fingers crossed, yeah, it is done. Sedation says Damian Priest still hasn't lost to Bad Bunny. That's embarrassing. I can see your point of view on paper. But Damian Priest was a trusted member of the WWE roster to have a match and pull out a great match with Bad Bunny, and he did that.
Sami Zayn lost to Johnny Knoxville. Sami's doing okay.
And he main evented WrestleMania a year later as well.
Exactly.
Fantastic point made there.
Priest to have Mania next year.
We'll have to wait and see. I don't know if we go that far, but absolutely, it would definitely be a much more stronger position moving forward. Sinisha says, I hope Cody Rhodes beats Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Region, I have to wait till WrestleMania 40. Cody Rhodes probably won't be as over as much. Interesting comment there. Well, let's talk about Cody Rhodes, shall we? Because that's the match that's left on Backlash. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. Obviously, this match had an interesting start. I felt like we matches sort of have a starting third, a middle area and an end, like starting to feeling each other out. Then the heel works over the babyface, then the babyface makes the big comeback. It's usually the way the blocks happen. The babyface decided to just jump through the ropes, go straight after Brock, and within seconds then we're starting to be suplexed all over the ring. It felt like we missed that first third of the match. We only had 20 minutes left of the show as well, including entrances, so it felt a lot shorter than what we're used to recently with Roman Reigns main events. But still, I digress. We go into this story, then Cody being destroyed by Brock Lesnar. Cody seems to find his way back into the match after the turnbuckle was exposed, and Brock Lesnar went head first into it. Felt the hard way as well, was busting open massively as well. Blood back in WWE, ladies and gentlemen. For those who thought it disappeared, it's there. Brock was bleeding quite heavily. Obviously, from that point, it felt like Cody was trying to get his way with hitting the crossroads. Didn't win. Obviously, Brock had hit his F5, didn't win. Brock went for the Kimura lock. We're talking about the similarities of Cody and John Cena, obviously from 10 years ago or 11 years ago. With the Kimura being brought back into the conversation, really felt from that era as well there. But just similar to what John Cena versus Brock Lesnar back at Extreme Rules 2012, Cody picked up the victory here. But again, wasn't in decisive fashion, because with that Kimura lock, Cody just managed to push his weight over on top and managed to get the free count. Wasn't decisive, wasn't any way we can go. Cody is back on path to go and finish the story. Cody may think so in his mind, but certainly that ain't over yet. The reason that finish has been done the way it's done is because we don't know enough of the story yet. Brock hasn't explained why he's doing this. We talked about this at the start of the stream. There's going to be another chapter with this. It's going to be at Night of Champions, ladies and gents. I feel very confident on saying that. I think it'll be a last man standing match. I wanted a bunkhouse brawl, but I don't think that will come in conversation, despite them being cowboys. But still, for me, I thought this main event was fine. The reason why I think, though, it should have main evented over Priest and Bad Bunny is the storyline arc that we did get. This is the small storyline thing that we did get, is Brock was upset with his placement of his match at WrestleMania. Now, of course, him versus Omos got himself the opener, versus Cody Rhodes is where he wants to be in the main event. That's meant to be the storyline. So if this match had not been in the main event, would that have taken away from what they've tried to build over the last few weeks, even though I would agree it didn't overly make so much sense? NXT, what's your take?
Yeah, it's just a shame that Brock seems to contradict himself, because when he faced Seth at Mania, it was a case of, well, if I ain't on last, I'm going on first. And it seems to be like you can't have it one way or the other, and then like 12 months later you complaining about your placement on the card. But this match for me was like, it was really strange. Like when it started, and obviously when Brock got busted open, I thought we were going like Bret Austin. Like I thought that it was going to be a case of somehow Lesnar was going to lose to loss of blood kind of thing. That's where I really thought they were going with this kind of dynamic. And then we get like the dodgy roll up pin, and I'm like, for a main event of a pay-per-view, it's a bit of a crap way to finish it. But like you said, being the main event, it kind of needed to go down that way just to further and progress the story along to getting another Lesnar versus Cody match. I mean, in an ideal situation, if you could have, after watching this, or if you could watch this back in another order, you probably put this match on first, just because of how short it was, the finish. It really shouldn't have been a main event kind of match, but like, you know, we can't change what's already been done now. But yeah, it was a really strange way that, like, don't get me wrong, the whole Cody coming at him straight away, it's a different tactic than most people are used to doing. I think we've maybe seen one or two people do before, where they just go straight for Brock, like before the bell even starts, and they try and get the upper hand in that kind of way. So I was glad to see that Cody would take that advantage. It's just like I said, we know without even being told, we can all kind of foreshadow what's going to happen, and we all know that there's going to be another Brock Cody match. We all don't really want Cody to win that World Heavyweight Championship, because we want him to win the Universal title off Roman. So I'm waiting for something to shock me with this rivalry. Like, I'm waiting for that point where it turns around and goes, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that to happen. But at the minute, it's kind of just very, very predictable.
Yeah, it's very predictable with where it's going to go, but it's where it could lead to long term. Could be an interesting story up, because I'm going to go a bit full circle here for a second. We talked about at the start of the stream the World Heavyweight Championship. We talked about the idea of, what if a SmackDown superstar was to win it? Well, they go to Raw. That's going to be the arc there. What if Cody wins Money in the Bank and defeats Roman Reigns at SummerSlam and ends up on SmackDown, and we've traded someone in the draft already? I know that makes the draft seem a bit not as important. But that could be WWE's thinking and logic of getting a way around it. You mentioned the superstar like Edge, for example, or AJ Styles. That's a babyface filling that role with Cody going over the other side.
Yeah, I mean, the Money in the Bank kind of sort of negates anything when it comes to the draft because he can challenge anyone at any point, at any time. So it's kind of a get out of jail free card for WWE. So yeah, it's a possibility, but then like you read other reports saying that LA Knight's favorite for that Money in the Bank position, which I'm all up for seeing that. But then it only leaves one other alternative for Cody to even get a shot at Roman, and that means winning the Rumble again next year. And it's a case of, do you really want Cody winning the Rumble again? If like they're obviously on separate brands, there's no other way of getting around it. So do you know what I mean? In the next 8 months, there your only two options is Money or the Bank or Rumble. So Money in the Bank would be a nice surprise. Because I think, like I said, a lot of people expected LA Knight to win. So hopefully they can do it that way. It's if, how, why, when, and what they do.
Absolutely, absolutely, indeed. And obviously the adversity in the story is still there because Lesnar's going to come back for more. We expect it to be on Raw tonight, obviously costing Cody either in the first triple threat match or in the main event of Raw tonight. And do you reckon the main event will be more impactful?
I hope so. I hope that it delivers. Like it really does need to. Like this is like essentially a season, brand new season for Raw. It's like it's supposed to be debuting a new logo supposedly tonight, and this needs to really deliver. This is essentially going to be an equivalent to a Raw after WrestleMania, and the Raw after WrestleMania didn't deliver this year. So with this being the first episode after the draft, they really need to hit home with this show, and they really need to deliver. But the other thing I was going to say as well is because Lesnar's a free agent, it don't matter where Cody goes, he ain't going to get away from Lesnar. So if he goes to SmackDown, Lesnar's still going to follow him. So this is a story that could actually drag out for a couple of years.
If they wanted to, they really, really could there. And be interested to see how it's going to go, to how it's going to play out. But overall, what were your final feelings of Backlash 2023 and your reviewed score out of 10?
After watching it the first time round, I was like, that's a 9 out of 10. Like it was such a good show. And then I watched it back a second time and I was like, you know what? It's not a 9 out of 10. It's probably, I'd say, a 7 out of 10 for me because the Bad Bunny match, the Bianca Belair match, really delivered a lot on the show. I think they really helped it. The crowd was super into it. The crowd were into most of the show throughout the night. It was just unfortunate that we got a short match with Omos and Seth. We got a short match with Cody and Brock, and it's like there could have been more there that could have uplifted it. So I'm going to say a 7 out of 10 for me.
I'm going to say 8 out of 10. I've not watched it a second time round, so I'm going to go firmly in the middle of what you've said there. But I just feel, where I agree with you, it's like a 7 out of 10 show. I just feel that crowd elevated it to an 8. It just really felt a good time sitting there watching that show. You wanted to get up and dance along with them. You wanted to go and sing along with them with the stuff they were doing, and it was a good time all round. And I mean, for me, some people are comparing this to one of the best backlashes of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far for me personally, but I would say
it's
though,
the same thing. The crowd just delivers it and makes it a lot better than probably what it could have been.
Absolutely. If this was in Corpus Christi, I don't think we'd be talking about this the same way. So, I mean, it just is what it is. But, I mean, overall, I mean, Bad Bunny and Damian Priest was like an old school street fight as well. That was really fun to watch. Like you said, the opener, fantastic wrestling match there as well. And some good storyline arcs throughout the evening. And just a lot of the right people felt like went over on the night. So, yeah, for me, a lot of this ticked the right boxes.
I tell you what, with that Bianca match as well, I think I was... Like, it's been a long time since I've really, really, really enjoyed a Bianca Belair match. So don't get me wrong, she still has great matches. But the fact that she was treated as the heel in this dynamic and Io was the face, I think was why I enjoyed it more as well, because it's been something I've been wanting for a long time, is Bianca in a heel dynamic. So seeing it because of this, the way the crowd helped deliver it, I think I just enjoyed it a lot more as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be interested to see how it's going to play out going forward for Bianca and for how it's going to go for that title reign. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with it. Do you reckon it's going to be a Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships trading?
I hope not. I think they just rename them, make one the world title, one the universal title. It'd just be easier, and then that way you can give them two, just like, I don't know, change them and just give them white titles, or make one a white title, one a black title, or whatever, man. Just get rid of the branded title names.
Absolutely, yeah. For me, that's what we need to do. They need to get like a world title and a universal title on the women's side, and then he just feels better. Or original names would even help as well there. We're going to go through the best. We're going to go through some of the comments now that we've got in before finishing things off here. Robbie Collins says, "Hope you guys are well. Absolutely love Backlash. Wasn't a big fan of the main event overall. It was brilliant. Yeah, it was a really good show. We really enjoyed it as well there. Obviously, go on.
There was one thing as well. Was it the best pay-per-view of the year?
Well, Temple Plays asked this. I mean, looking at this, I mean, I thought the Rumble was fun. I would say I thought the Rumble was decent this year. Chamber, for me, I thought was really good. I did enjoy the Chamber.
At the minute, I can't put anything over Mania Night 1. Mania Night 1 was fantastic from start to end. From Theory versus Cena to start it off, I enjoyed it for what it was. Like, I thought it was really good. And then we had that great match between Rhea and Charlotte, that main event tag team match. There was just a lot in that night one. I think that for me, that's really hard to beat at the minute this year. This was an okay show, but like I said, I think Mania Night 1 for me is still the best one so far this year.
Absolutely. If you had to class of WrestleMania as a whole, then would you still have the same answer?
It's really hard to class them as the same show because it's double the amount of matches. I can't answer it, man. It's too hard of a question to. I think if I had the choice, if you told me to pick one to go back and watch, Mania as a whole is a lot of wrestling, and half of it is not as good as what I thought it was going to be. So maybe Backlash is better then. Maybe.
I'll take the maybe. I think for me, I'm going to go with Elimination Chamber so far as my favoured show of the year so far. I enjoyed the Chamber matches. I thought the Roman and Sami was done
that Chamber win was immense.
Yeah, so I think that there are some good elements to that show. So for me, that's going to take it. But I think as the crowd goes, I mean, goodness, I know WrestleMania was a great crowd, but I mean, this was a 16,000 in the house compared to an 80,000, and the 16,000 made themselves heard like it was the same level. So yeah, for me, I do think Backlash is going to remember for a lot of the right reasons. I hope for actually Puerto Rico get another show further down the line. I'd like it to be a Royal Rumble, to be fair, after we've seen some of the reactions to some of the cameos. But at the same time,
that drone that they were using as well, I thought was a really great thing to see. Like when it starts and they start outside and he flies in the arena, when it nearly took out the security guard in the head before it avoided him, I was well up for it. I thought it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad said about the idea of actually being a heist done for Night of Champions, with Paul Heyman having an idea of Roman walking away with all 3 titles. I really hope that that's not going to happen, Brad. That would just be legitimately no. Just no.
That'd be riots.
Yeah, I think there would be. I really do. Ken says there are reports from What Culture, Finn Balor kicked out of the Judgment Day will be replaced by an NXT call-up. I imagine that NXT call-up is JD McDonough, but for me, I see them alongside each other. They do have history together, JD McDonough and Finn Balor. In fact, JD McDonough was trained by Finn Balor, so I imagine alongside.
Why is it everyone wants to replace the Irish guy with an Irish guy? Why can't they just work together? Why can't they just be one big happy family?
I suppose the bar bill will probably be too high. I guess that's probably why. C Nation says Brock Lesnar also faced Seth Rollins in the opener of WrestleMania 35. Heyman said that Lesnar wants to open the show, so that doesn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, but that's what WWE's comments are now. I mean, WrestleMania 35 4 years ago, but NXT brought it up earlier as well.
There's a lot of things that Vince has said over the years that didn't make sense and still don't make sense today, like why we couldn't have no wrestling during commercial breaks. God knows. So, yeah. 2 out of 3 falls every match. Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, absolutely. God, that was awful.
What was your favourite one? I can't remember it now. What was it? There was one thing you always used to hate with it. Oh, championship contender matches. Number one, what was it? I can't remember the name, but
yeah, it was championship contender. They had. I don't remember the name of it either now. It's too late for me. But going to wrap up the last few comments anyway. We're going to wrap things up with the stream, ladies and gents. Cody Rhodes will win Money in the Bank, cashing in Roman Reigns to give him a taste of his money. Good prediction there for us. It can also bring prestige back to Money in the Bank. If LA Knight wins it, he will fail with his cash in for a mid-card title. Hope that wouldn't be the case for our boy LA Knight, but I can see the argument. The person needs to win it this year. Eli Drake, obviously LA Knight from Ken Thompson there as well. C Nation goes on to say that Roman Reigns will win the Royal Rumble match, so he can actually. So the story could be that he beats. Hang on, let me read that again. Then the story can be: can Cody Rhodes beat Roman Reigns at 100%? Interesting. I'd see more likely the other way around, but yeah, it's an interesting storyline. I won't be against.
Yeah, Roman defeating everyone on the roster. That's a bit of an extreme limit there, I think.
Bianca Belair's character seems like a heel character. Does really the EST, greatest, the fastest, the strongest. Doesn't really give anyone else a chance. It's an arrogance feel to it as well. WWE should start giving Money in the Bank people who actually win the world title. Austin Theory with the Money in the Bank made no sense. Totally agree. Also, we've got here WrestleMania Night 1, favourite pay-per-view of the year for C Nation so far as well. A rumour that the Raw Tag Team Championships will go to the World Tag Team titles and the SmackDown to the WWE. Please do that, WWE. I'd be fully in favour of that. And Impact Wrestling Knockouts have better matches than WWE and AEW. Impact Wrestling are doing some incredible stuff over there. They've got great Knockouts division. Deanna Prazo currently is their champion. They've got Jordan Grace. Trinity's now entered the conversation. They've got Rosemary. You've got many other talents that are on there as well. Mickey James being another one. So yeah, Ray, they do some fantastic stuff over there. Although I've got to say, talking about Backlash, really enjoyed Bianca Belair versus Io Sky. They had an incredible match as well there. But yeah, that's pretty much all of our comments there. And I want to say thank you to everyone that's been watching the stream today. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do hit the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe as well to the channel if you are new here. Like I say as well, we'll look to try and put out more videos in the week as well. Probably be Night of Champions related. Probably will not be another live stream until towards the end of the week, if I'm being brutally honest. But and Steve, I want to say a massive thank you to you for being on as always. It's been a great pleasure to have you on.
As always, it's always a pleasure to be honest, Steve, and always good to waffle wrestling as usual.
Well, it's always a great time indeed. If anyone was missed, you can hear our thoughts on the World Heavyweight Championship tournament at the start of the video. Go and rewind to that now. Just before we finish off, Zayn, yes, I did give Trinity a big pop when she made her debut in Impact Wrestling. I knew she was coming in. She's got a big match as well. She's got an open contract match set for Under Siege. And the last one from Temple plays, if you was to book a match in WWE that has never happened ever, what would you book?
Sting, Undertaker, Goldberg, Austin. There is an untold list of amount of matches that we never got to see in WWE.
Absolutely, indeed. There, I'll add one more just to be different to the list. Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles. If anybody got that at Royal Rumble 2017, would have been a beaut. And also Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle would have been a fantastic match as well. Rich Swann and Sam Cannon form a team. I would love to see that happen, especially for UC Nation, just to see Rich Swann win those tag team titles. But that's all from us today. Thank you for watching as always. Look after yourselves and each other. We'll see you next time. Thank you always for watching.